Our choices can make or break the future for generations to come. In just 100 years, humanity has made extraordinary progress. But we've also gone from this to this. This generation has a duty to consider how our choices will impact the 10 billion people who will be born before the end of this century. Using data and foresight tools, we can understand our world more clearly, envision a brighter future, and together make better choices. We can build a thriving, sustainable planet for future generations where everyone has equal rights, poverty and hunger are no more, quality healthcare is accessible, peace prevails, and technology offers opportunities for all. This September, world leaders will gather at the Summit of the Future to decide on a declaration on future generations, recognizing the exponential impact of our actions today for tomorrow, paving the way for our common future.
Welcome to the Global Goals Week. This is the Systems Change Summit. My name is Siyona Bordia, a senior from New Jersey, and I'm interested in exploring the intersection of women's health and economics. I'm also the founder of two organizations, Rightfully Hers, which works in the field of women's empowerment and health, and Musician Circle, where I organize performance opportunities for young artists in the local community. My research paper looks at how different socioeconomic determinants affect maternal mortality in the United States. So, I have been recognized, and my organization, Rightfully Hers, has been recognized in several ways, specifically at international forums and United Nations conferences. I've also been a volunteer at several local hospitals in my area. I've also donated 500 plus breastfeeding kits with the Rightfully Hers team to these hospitals and have won Outstanding Delegate and Best Delegate awards for Model United Nations. So I have had a long journey in getting here, and I'm so excited to share what I've learned in researching maternal mortality. And to clarify, my motivation is to focus on the Sustainable Development Goals of gender equality, health, and education. Around 1,000 women die annually of pregnancy-related causes, and thousands more lack access to pre and postnatal care in the United States alone. So, what I want to do is to better understand what causes these deaths and direct steps to actually combat this problem. So, to provide some background, what is MMR? MMR stands for maternal mortality rates, and the CDC, or the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, defines maternal mortality rate to be the number of mothers who die as a proportion of the number of live births, always per 100,000 live births. MMRs are significant benchmarks for measuring the quality of a nation's healthcare and outcomes. Variable MMR can often reflect disparities in social determinants such as income, access to healthcare, and education. The WHO explains social determinants of health, or SDHs is the abbreviation, as the living conditions of people that affect their health and well being. In this study, we tested the assumption that race and ethnicity, income, education, and health insurance level influence MMR in the United States. As for methods, we utilized retrospective data from the National Vital Statistics System and CDC to compute U.S. state-level MMR by race and ethnicity. We also utilized U.S. Census Bureau data, state-level data from the American Community Survey for the factors of median household income, percent college educated, and percent uninsured rate by race and ethnicity. In addition, we used regression analyses to understand the association between MMR and these factors. Data from women of three different populations by race and ethnicity were analyzed, and these three populations were those who identified as non-Hispanic Black women, non-Hispanic white women, and Hispanic women. To study the effect of these socioeconomic variables on MMR, we first tabulated MMR by state for the three populations along with the key demographic variables. These results comprise data in 16 US states, as listed here, with available maternal mortality data in each of the three racial groups. Of note, together, these 16 states accounted for about two-thirds of live births and maternal mortality in the dataset and approximately two-thirds of the US population. In general, we also found that MMR was numerically highest in Blacks, who also appeared to have the least favorable SDHs. In contrast, the white population had low MMR and more favorable SDHs, and Hispanics, interestingly, had MMRs numerically closer to whites despite worse SDHs. So here is the first table of income level. And we see that Blacks are in gray, they have higher MMRs as well as lower median incomes, while Hispanics and whites are centralized around the same area. We see the same trend for uninsured percentage, where Blacks have higher MMRs and lower percent uninsured rates, and then the same trend for education level, with Blacks having higher MMRs and they are on the lower side of the percent college educated population. So this continually demonstrates the trend and the disparities between the races in terms of MMR and their access to resources and their socioeconomic status. After studying each of the SDH variables individually with MMR, we conducted a multi-step regression analysis to understand the overall relationship between the different SDH factors with MMR. MMR was the dependent variable for our study, and the SDH factors of race, education, household income, and percent uninsured were the four independent variables. Upon analysis, the race of Blacks and Hispanics, as well as percent uninsured, had a statistically significant relationship with changes in MMR. P-values were less than 0.05, which is a statistically significant value. However, median income and percent college educated were not initially significant in their correlation with changes in MMR, with p-values of 0.09 and 0.82. However, to check whether median income and percent college educated were correlated in the regression model and MMR, they were both regressed as independent variables, individually without the other present. Eventually, median income was also found to be significant with a p-value of less than 0.01. Finally, to quantify the effect of these independent variables on MMR, a sensitivity analysis was conducted based on the results of the second regression. We first computed the MMR for varying levels of uninsured rates, starting from 0.05 to 2.15, which corresponds to levels of 5%, 10%, and 15% uninsured, using the coefficients derived from the second regression. We found that for every $1,000 increase in income, MMR decreased by 1.04%, and that MMR was associated with a 2% increase for every 1 percentage point increase in uninsured rates, regardless of race. In addition, Blacks had an MMR 1.99 times that of whites, while Hispanics had an MMR 0.66 times of whites for the same percent of uninsured population and the same income. Hence, our analysis suggests that Black race, median income, and higher percent of uninsured rates are associated with increased maternal mortality in the United States. We also explored a certain paradox called the Hispanic paradox, describing the observation that U.S. Hispanic populations tend to have a health status similar to U.S. white populations despite having worse socioeconomic status. It is possible that the relatively better outcomes in Hispanics might be linked to the benefits of cooperative living, other factors related to Hispanic culture. Our study suggests that race, median income, and uninsured percentage play an important role in maternal mortality outcomes for several United States in the United States of America. Finally, the limitations of our study included that the analyses were constrained by the extent of public data available by CDC and ACS. There were also differences in the implementation of data collection across various U.S. states. More research is needed to further study the effect of social determinants on maternal mortality in the United States. Disparities continue to exist, and if we want to align with our sustainable development goals of gender equality, better healthcare, and better education, as well as reduce poverty, we need to be able to investigate the causes of these deaths and how to prevent them. Here are my references. These are only a few of them. However, we have a list of over 50. And I'd also like to thank my advisors, Dr. Yashika Shah, the senior author of this paper, as well as Ms. Nancy Salente and Dr. Gwyneth Lee at Rutgers University. Please feel free to reach out with any questions you may have about my research, as here is my contact information. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this presentation for Global Goals Week.